father. Trickler, look, this is getting a little silly. You know, I can indulge your fantasies to a point. And, you know, I hope by now I've earned your trust a little bit. But this is getting a little bit beyond me. I don't want you messing with my head. I'm going to put a few ground rules down right now. All right? Just sit down here and relax. I have a few stories I want to tell you. He goes over to this clock on the wall. I'm kind of laying back on the table. I figure I better get a little rest. I'm feeling pretty tired, and I peek out of my eye a little bit. And he pulls off the minute hand and the hour hand off this clock face for some reason. And he walks over to my little table, sets them down there on the butcher paper kind of there beside me, and he opens up the drawer underneath, and he pulls out a little vial. I'm not really watching all of it. I'm just getting a little bit tired of this. Every now and then you got to rest in the middle of therapy, and it's time as any, I figure. I said, so what's the deal with that clock over there? Oh, that's something they had invented back in the 40s. And, you know, in case of a nuclear attack, people need an anchor to hold on to, something to keep them stable, something to keep them mentally healthy. And time is just such an anchor. It's perfect. So even down here, we need these clocks. We set them on springs in case of direct nuclear attack. It can withstand it. It'll take it all. Very interesting. So he's down there. I close my eyes. I hear him kind of preparing something. You know, hey, Doc. He laid in this chair many years ago. I worked on him too. All the Soviets would find him, they'd lobotomize him and leave him out in the back country roads to wander, screaming zombies through the fields and cornfields at night. You could hear him out there. If you can go out sometimes, you can hear him, just like seeing the constellations. You'll hear him screaming, all right? And they wander for a while, and we usually pick him up and they bring him here. And see, I was the only one that knew the cure. I was the only one that could fix him up after they'd been lobotomized or in some other way tortured or maimed. I was the only one, and I'd do it right here. It's great power down here. So they brought him to me like that. He had a big hole in his head. He screamed so bad, they cut him a little tracheotomy. They couldn't stand the screaming there at VA hospitals all the time, so they cut him with tracheotomy. You know, he had someone up there in the asylum build him a little voice box, you know, so that he could be heard and could communicate. But after he was fixed up, he didn't know anything. He didn't know any secrets, so they demoted him and put him in charge of the asylum over there. And he was in charge of throwing people through the hole for me to work on, you see? He'd drop them through there, and they'd splash an empty leg. You see that little red light there on the wall? It'd go on. And when that red light shined, I know that the screamer was done. And I'd pull him out. You know, and about then I could fix them or file them however I wanted, whatever I wanted to do with them. And he's rummaging around in a drawer down there on the side of the chair, and I look down. And I'm seeing all these beautiful, gleaming surgical instruments, some rusty, some just perfect. There's jumper cables in there, and there's black duct tape, and there's all sorts of Ziploc bags and things like that down there. I get off the bench. I'm over in the corner, and I'm banging around by the ceiling of the bench, going, what's going on here? Just relax. Dr. Hazard, you just relax. Son, look, if I wanted you, I would have had you. And he reaches into the drawer. This giant metal clamp right where my legs and arms would have been. Puts it back. Now get on the bench. I have more story to tell you. Strip down. Better yet. Because I need to examine you. No, Trickler, I've had enough of it. It's all just a fantasy, isn't it? Take off your clothes. I want to examine you. Fine, I take off my clothes. Sprawl out on his little metal examination table there and relax. Just look up there at that lamp. Stare at that lamp for a little while. You'll find that it'll soothe you. It's warm kind of light. Stare at me. That's good. I'm going to tell you a little story here. He starts kind of examining my body. And it feels kind of good, massaging a little bit and broad. And I feel him back here by my shoulder blade. And he's working me over a little bit, examining me. And he even reaches down into the drawer and pulls out this giant magnifying kind of glass thing, hooks it there into his glasses and can cock it down. Look out there. He's got these little glasses they carry that look like they have a plastic shield on so that no things will bust his eyes. Or I don't know what's going on with him. But anyway, I just relax for a while. I'm going to tell you a little story, and I want you to see it. I want you to feel it, taste it, touch it. It's a little story about Mr. Gasser, one of the patients up there in the asylum. You see, he was a very sweet-natured soul, Mr. Gasser. He's the one that had the little burn scars over him. And you've seen him, haven't you? Yeah, I see. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I'm seeing it so clearly. I'm seeing his face pressed up against my office window back there at the asylum. Mr. Gasser. And he plucks his nose, farts, and I laugh a little. How show some respect! All right. Mr. Gasser, this is Dr. Hazard. He's going to help us. Dr. Hazard is going to help you. Mr. Gasser smiles and then moves away from the window. Mr. Gasser invented a corn-based chemical compound which was able to somehow kill his chickens painlessly. He didn't have the heart to do it himself and slaughter them all by himself. So he went out there in his chicken coop, turned a few knobs. Oh, you should see it. There's a chicken all kicking and bucking up against the fence, chicken wire there. Oh, it was kind of sweet. He takes the chickens and he slaughters them, feeds them to his family. Big mistake. You see, what it did is it kind of turned them all against each other, and they wanted to eat the mom. They did. They ate the mother. They came after Gasser, and he was hiding in the barn. He's standing outside the barn for a while, screaming in the house. He sees somebody runs in his barn, he hides. And all of a sudden he sees the children like fleeing showers running and hanging from the rafters. Some of them got sickles, some of them got these pitchforks and things, and they're chasing it down. And one of them jumps on it, and he throws a hollow-eyed freak off. He stomps on his head. He killed all his children except one of them. One of them, and he's thrown up in the barn, kind of like he's sort of spread out, spread eagle. He strapped his little boy up there, and his boy's bucking and frothing at the mouth. Rabies, maybe? This country doctor never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like that before. Oh, Mr. Trickler. Yeah. About that time, government always hears about these things. Oh, they always know something's going on, let me tell you. And so he was hiding in his coop. He saw the men in black cars come. 7, 8 of them come. And they walked up real confident-like to the barn. They weren't going to get his secret. Who knew what they'd do with it? Who knew what they'd do with it? He lights a match on the blade of the sickle. His son's bucking in the background there. He lights the whole place, turns on the gas. The whole place goes up in flames. You've never seen a more beautiful sight all your life. When the men in black go into a barn and fire, it was on fire. The men in black go in there and they come out flaming. It's a godly sight. It's a godly sight. And their clothes is melting off of them and their hair is flaming, but they're smiling because they're serving their country. And they've got a hold of Gasser's arms, and his arms are kind of warped a little bit under their firm grip, and Gasser's got scars all over him. And his little black hair is hanging off in the wisp. Kept that for some reason. It's a miracle. And they took him and they locked the cubic metal cages on his hands, and they locked one over his head. I don't want to see him, you see. They got to be anonymous when they drop him through the hole. I don't want to know who they are. I don't want to know a thing about them. They dropped him through the hole, and they had a little bit of a kind of a hole up here inside of his head so I could work on it without seeing him. And they dropped him through the hole, and he bangs off the catwalk, falls in the empty lake, usually breaks a bone or two. And after a while, a fisherman out worked on him. That's how it went for many years. Right about then, Trickler panics. You know the story, he panics. He's looking with this little big magnifying thing. He reaches down in a drawer and pulls out a couple Ziploc bags and puts them over his hand. What is it? So see it. He takes these little foggy Ziploc bags and presses in hard on either side of the zip. Searches the pustule a little bit. You're safe. You see, the opaque head of a blemish can be turned into a zip camera. Can broadcast an image far and wide. I've got to check you. Make sure nobody's spying on us. Make sure head isn't watching. I need to do one more thing, Dr. Hazard. I need to do one more thing before we go any further.